The horizon was barely a suggestion of dawn when Adrian pulled up to the sprawling construction site, a world alive with the hum of heavy machinery and the early stirrings of a workforce already deep in motion. The concrete floors were yet to cool from last night's labor, and amidst the coordinated chaos of cranes, mixers, and laborers, the steady, rhythmic pounding of progress felt like the heartbeat of not just a company, but a legacy that Adrian had devoted his life to. Every metal clang and tireless engine note whispered of countless days and nights spent building more than structures. They were the bricks of his identity, forged in relentless commitment. As Adrian stepped off his truck, his mind drifted in a quiet yet persistent reverie. In the crisp morning air, echoes of burnt midnight oil and the scratch of pencil on blueprint paper replayed in his memory. He recalled the late nights hunched over intricate designs, where the glow of a desk lamp illuminated bruises of exhaustion on his face. There was a worn photograph tucked in his jacket, a faded image of his younger self standing proudly beside his parents in front of the very site he now served. That silent snapshot was a reminder of promises made and obstacles overcome, testifying to personal sacrifices made in the relentless pursuit of perfection and loyalty. In that reflective pause, every long hour had been worth it, even as the looming pressure of unspoken expectations weighed on him like the heft of raw concrete. The very foundations of the business bore the marks of family history, a tapestry woven with tradition, duty, and the tacit rule that loyalty transcended personal ambition. As he strode along the edge of the site, Adrian sensed the invisible threads connecting every brick and beam to the legacy forged by Malcolm and Evelyn, his parents. Their office, still warmly lit in the early hour, echoed with hushed conversations about strategy and dreams, mingled with the murmur of the machines outside. It was here, amidst whispered plans and the palpable pride of a family enterprise, that Adrian understood the unyielding commitment demanded of him. His dedication was less a choice than an inheritance, a legacy meant to cement both the physical and emotional structure of a business that had raised him. Under the rising sun, with the scent of fresh concrete and the promise of a new day in the air, Adrian couldn't help but feel that he was not merely a worker on a bustling site. He was an integral part of a living family monument. A monument built on years of commitment, sacrifice, and the quiet, enduring duty of honoring a legacy that demanded every ounce of his spirit. The soft hum of activity shifted as Adrian navigated the corridors between the bustling site and the back offices. In the muted light of early morning, he began to notice the barely audible murmurs that had threaded through the hallways, the cautious whispers of colleagues and the furtive, sidelong glances exchanged between Bianca and some of the management team. Their silent communications, laden with a tension that belied the day's routine, planted the first seeds of doubt in his mind. Each hushed conversation and knowing smile between those in the know nudged him to question the familiar dynamics of a business he'd devoted his life to. Later that day, seeking a brief respite from the clamor of voices and the relentless pace of progress, Adrian found himself alone in a seldom-used storage room tucked behind the main administrative area. Amidst dusty files and abandoned proposals, a half-hidden document caught his eye, a set of faded papers that detailed a significant shift in ownership percentages. His pulse quickened as he read the barely legible notes. The stakes in the company were in the process of being reallocated, a change that had been sketched out in secrecy. The discovery was subtle yet damning, a whisper of betrayal cloaked in bureaucratic language that he wasn't entirely prepared to decipher. In the solitude that followed, Adrian's thoughts churned with the weight of his newfound suspicions. The document, as inconspicuous as it seemed, served as a stark contrast to the years of brick-by-brick dedication he had poured into the company. It forced him to confront an internal conflict. Was his unwavering loyalty being repaid with fairness, or was he merely a silent cog in a machine that valued his sacrifice over his worth? The tension between the personal investment of countless nights spent perfecting plans and the whispers suggesting a clandestine redistribution of power gnawed at him. In that quiet moment, as the early hints of betrayal began to echo through his mind, he realized that the loyalty he had taken for granted might be built on foundations of secrets and half-truths. Each step he took back to the noise of the active site felt heavier, burdened by the growing realization that every congratulatory handshake or casual greeting might now conceal a deeper, more complicated agenda. The undercurrent of hidden whispers had started to shape a narrative of its own, one that pitted hard-earned dedication against the looming specter of betrayal. Late that night, the construction site had quieted to a hushed symphony of distant machines and the occasional creak of settling steel. In the solitude of the dimly lit administrative office, Adrian pored over a stack of files that chronicled the day's progress. The gentle whir of the overhead fan was his only companion, until a misfiled folder caught his tired eyes. With a hesitant pull, he unfolded a document that would shatter his long-standing trust. A ledger entry confirmed that 75% ownership of the family business had been transferred to Bianca. For a moment, the world seemed to still. The stark truth laid bare on the paper in black ink was impossible to ignore. Shock rippled through him, mingling with a raw, unexpected pain. How could something I never questioned, something I had poured my soul into, suddenly become a token of betrayal? His hand trembled as he reread the document, the numbers and signatures etching themselves into his mind like a scar. In that electrifying moment of revelation, every late night spent deciphering blueprints and every ounce of sweat shed in dedication clashed violently with the cruel twist of fate laid out before him. The tempest of emotions surged as Adrian's mind was flooded with vivid flashbacks. He saw his youthful self, eyes wide with ambition, laboring under the flicker of a desk lamp, sketching plans that would later transform into towering structures. He remembered the countless evenings spent poring over designs until the early hours of the morning, the silent sacrifices made as family moments slipped away in the pursuit of a shared vision. All these memories, once a source of personal pride, now turned into bitter reminders of a loyalty taken for granted. The sacrifices that had once defined his identity were cruelly juxtaposed against the present's betrayal. Unable to contain the storm within, Adrian stormed into the familiar yet suddenly alien surroundings of his family's office the following morning. Confronting Malcolm, he demanded answers in a heated, trembling voice. "Why wasn't I ever told? After every sacrifice I made, did you think I wouldn't notice?" Malcolm's calm, measured tone did little to ease the eruption of disillusionment within Adrian. The silence that followed was punctuated only by his ragged breaths, each one a testament to the gulf between what he had given and what he had received in return. The office, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and collective effort, now reverberated with the noise of broken trust and unresolved anguish. In that charged moment, as emotions ran high and the weight of betrayal pressed down on him, Adrian felt not only the sting of a personal attack, but also a painful realization. The foundation that he had built with sweat and unwavering loyalty was marred by secrets and injustice. The flashbacks of dedication blended into the harsh present, leaving him to confront the question of whether his labor was honored as a cornerstone of family legacy or reduced to a mere stepping stone in a plan he never consented to. This night of revelations marked the beginning of a painful yet transformative journey, one where the longing for truth and justice would eventually awaken a strength he never knew he possessed. In the stifling air of the family's executive office, the tension was palpable. Adrian stood face to face with Malcolm and Evelyn, figures he had respected, trusted, and once looked up to. His voice, low and unwavering, broke the oppressive silence. "Why?" he demanded, eyes burning with a mixture of heartbreak and indignation. "After everything I've sacrificed for this company, after every late night, every personal moment I surrendered, why was I left in the dark?" Malcolm's expression remained impassive, but a subtle shift in his gaze betrayed his inner turmoil. Evelyn, quiet and pained, avoided his eyes. The raw dialogue hung in the air as Malcolm finally replied, his tone measured yet cold. "You were never seen as the one to hold the reins fully. We did what was necessary for the future, even if it hurt you now." Adrian's heart pounded as he fought back the tide of emotions threatening to engulf him. The words stung like bitter acid, clashing with years of silent devotion. The confrontation revealed a chasm between the family's vision of legacy and the harsh reality of personal betrayal. Walking out. Unable to reconcile the betrayal with his own unwavering commitment, Adrian did something irrevocable. Without a trace of hesitation, he turned away from the accusing stares in that hallowed room of memories and expectations. In one sweeping, decisive motion, a silent ode to the dignity he still clung to, he walked out, leaving behind the office that had once been a sanctuary of shared dreams. With each step away, the weight of his resignation manifested not as defeat, but as a reclaiming of self-respect. The office door closed behind him with an echo that resonated like a final verdict, a demonstration that he would no longer allow his invaluable contributions to be undermined by cold, calculated decisions. The silence that follows. In the immediate aftermath of Adrian's departure, the office was swallowed by an unsettling silence. The absence of his presence was palpable. Where once there had been a vibrant pulse driving progress, now there was a void. Colleagues exchanged troubled glances, and whispers filled the corridor, a silent acknowledgement that the foundation of the company was now compromised. Outside on the construction site, the machinery's rhythmic hum faltered, as if mourning the loss of an indispensable force. The once tightly knit operations now stuttered, reflecting the irreplaceable gap left behind. In that profound silence, the true measure of Adrian's integral role was laid bare, a poignant reminder that sometimes the strength of one individual is the very cornerstone upon which an empire is built. Adrian's breaking point not only signified the end of his unquestioning loyalty, but also the birth of a determination to redefine his worth. This moment of personal reckoning set in motion a transformation that would challenge the very foundation of the family legacy. Crisis on site. The morning after Adrian's departure, the construction site, once a masterpiece of coordinated precision, woke to an unsettling disarray. Without his steady presence, orders faltered and teams scrambled. Crane operators found themselves idling without clear direction, and the rhythmic symphony of machines dulled into a discord of beeps and clatters. Laborers, who had long trusted in the silent coordination built by years of effort, exchanged worried glances and hurriedly attempted to cover one another's gaps. The physical space transformed into a microcosm of the chaos unfolding within the company, a living testament that Adrian's silent departure had left more than an empty desk. It had unsettled the very beat of the enterprise. Family fractures. In the cold light of morning, far from the organized chaos of the site, the family confronted the ramifications of this unexpected collapse. In the hushed confines of the executive office, Malcolm and Evelyn found themselves locked in a tense conversation with Bianca. The air was heavy with regret and rationalizations. "Bianca, did you ever consider what might happen when we lose someone who's been the backbone of this operation?" Malcolm's voice was a mix of sternness and disbelief. Bianca's eyes, once filled with the promise of authority, now darted anxiously between her parents. "I understood saving the company meant making hard decisions," she replied, her tone wavering as she defended actions she had once taken for granted. Evelyn's voice, softer yet laden with sorrow, added, "We believed it was for the greater good, but now, facing this collapse, we must admit that our calculations were flawed." The conversation crackled with tension as the rationalizations for their betrayal clashed with the stark reality of the disintegrating operation. Their familial bond, once secure in shared ambition, was visibly cracking under the weight of disappointment and the unforeseen consequences of fragmented loyalty. Self-reflection. Away from the relentless pace and clamor of the construction site, Adrian found himself impromptu wandering along a quiet stretch of a nearby road. In the solitude away from the day-to-day grind, a deep internal dialogue began to emerge. As he paused to watch the first light of day slowly reclaim the sky, his thoughts turned inward. He recalled every moment of personal sacrifice, those sleepless nights spent poring over blueprints, and the emotional imprints of family photographs that once filled him with pride. Now, those memories clashed bitterly with the harsh truth of betrayal and the collapse he had left behind. The loss wasn't merely of a job or a title. It was the painful recognition that loyalty, regardless of how selflessly given, could be traded like currency in the labyrinth of family politics. In that reflective stillness, Adrian questioned the true worth of unyielding dedication. Could there be a path where personal value was honored, not as an inevitable duty, but through genuine recognition and respect? The silence around him was a mirror to the void inside, a space that might one day be filled with a renewed sense of self, crafted not by sacrifice alone, by the understanding of one's own intrinsic worth. In this chapter, the tangible disarray on the construction site mirrors the deeper fracture within the family unit, while Adrian's solitary reflections set the stage for his transformation. His departure marks not only the physical collapse of a system built on inherited obligations, but also the stirring of a new determination to redefine his own value, hinting at the transformative journey that lies ahead. Seeking counsel. Late one rainy afternoon, Adrian found himself tucked away in a quiet, dimly lit corner of a familiar cafe, an intimate setting where soft jazz mingled with the murmurs of hushed conversation. Across from him sat Nathan, his trusted legal advisor and longtime mentor, whose calm yet piercing gaze seemed to see straight into Adrian's turbulent soul. As rain dripped rhythmically against the window, Nathan leaned forward and spoke with measured intensity. Adrian, loyalty without recognition is a debt you can no longer afford. You've invested your heart and sweat into this company. It's time you claim what you deserve. Their conversation unfurled with raw honesty, Nathan outlining the legal frameworks and tactical maneuvers available, and Adrian absorbing every detail as if it were both an instruction manual for reclaiming his dignity and a blueprint for transforming betrayal into power. Preparing the countermove. In the solitude of his modest study that evening, the pale glow of a desk lamp illuminated a determined glint in Adrian's eyes. A montage of focused scenes played out. Stacks of contracts and faded company documents spread across the worn oak desk, his pen darting across paper as he meticulously jotted down negotiation points and draft amendments, and quiet moments where he rehearsed his words before a reflective mirror. Each scribbled note and redrafted clause marked a transition from the despair of betrayal to a budding sense of resolve. He studied the intricate clauses of family agreements, cross-referenced legal precedents, and even mapped out potential counter-arguments, all while revisiting memories of nights spent in tireless labor. This transformation was not merely about legal leverage. It was about asserting that his years of sacrifice were not expendable commodities, but the very foundation upon which the company had once thrived. The first confrontation. The following morning, with the cool light of dawn filtering through the high windows of the family's executive office, Adrian stepped into a charged, tense meeting room. The air was thick with unspoken words as he stood face to face with Malcolm and Evelyn. There was no flourish, only a quiet, resolute determination. Clearing his throat, Adrian's voice was steady and firm as he declared, "I have dedicated years of my life to this company. Today, I stand before you not as a mere employee, but as an integral partner who deserves a 35% stake and proper recognition of my contributions." His words echoed in the hushed silence, punctuating the room with an undeniable claim to his rights. In that brief yet powerful confrontation, the long-buried hurt transformed into a battle cry, a demand not for vengeance, but for justice and acknowledgement. The silent shock in Malcolm's eyes and the hesitant, almost pained expression on Evelyn's face marked a turning point. The negotiator had made his stand, and there was no retreat from the path he had chosen. Sibling showdown. Adrian agreed to meet Bianca at a quiet park, a neutral haven away from the charged atmosphere of the boardroom and construction site. The park, with its sparse benches and gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a soft autumn breeze, set the stage for a confrontation laden with unspoken memories. Under a sprawling oak, their eyes met with an electric mix of familiar sibling affection and raw, newly forged resentment. The calm of the park clashed with the inner turmoil that both carried, and in that silence, old wounds threatened to burst open. Every step toward each other seemed heavy with the legacy of years molded by unspoken expectations and hidden ambitions. They stood a few feet apart until Bianca broke the stillness, her voice wavering between defensiveness and regret. "Adrian, I know you feel betrayed," she began softly, her gaze dropping to the ground. "But believe me, I never wanted this rift. I was caught in a web of expectations, pushed by the weight of our family's legacy. I did what I thought I had to do." Adrian's eyes flashed as he replied, his voice steady yet laden with hurt. "And what about the years I spent? Every extra hour, every sacrifice? When was that supposed to count? I built more than buildings here. I built this company with my hands. And now it feels like my worth was just an afterthought." Bianca's posture stiffened, and for a long moment, silence fell as both grappled with their shared agony. "I'm sorry," she whispered, truly. "I remember how you'd stay up late, perfecting blueprints, sacrificing moments I only ever envied. I never meant to become the symbol of everything that feels wrong here." Her admission opened the floodgates of unexpressed pain. Adrian's tone softened just a fraction as he disclosed the loneliness of feeling undervalued. "It's not just about the stake in the company. It's about being left invisible, like every effort I made was expendable." Her admission opened the floodgates of unexpressed pain. Adrian's tone softened just a fraction as he disclosed the loneliness of feeling undervalued. "It's not just about the stake in the company. It's about being left invisible, like every effort I made was expendable." Between them, the crisp air filled with the heavy fragrance of regrets and shared disappointments. Each word carved away at the barriers now built over years of neglect, unveiling vulnerabilities they both had tried to hide. A glimmer of understanding. As the dialogue unfolded amidst the quiet rustle of park leaves, a tentative understanding began to emerge. Bianca, her eyes glistening with unspoken remorse, admitted, "Maybe we both ended up being pawns in a game we didn't want to play. I felt trapped, expected to follow a path defined by our parents. I'm starting to see that I traded your contribution and your heart for a misguided sense of duty." Adrian, still nursing his wounded pride, considered her words. "I've always believed that hard work should be recognized, not exploited. I invested everything I had, not just in the company, but in our family's dream." In the raw vulnerability of that moment, both siblings realized that behind the betrayal lay a shared pain, a desire to be seen, heard, and appreciated for who they truly were. The tension, once a chasm, now seemed like the first step toward a bridge. Even as old wounds ached, there was a spark of hope. In the muted afternoon light, they both sensed that healing might be possible if they could find a way to validate each other's struggles, to rewrite the narrative that had pitted loyalty against ambition. Standing under the watchful branches of the oak, with the park's quiet witness to their reunion, Bianca and Adrian began to glimpse the possibility of forging a new beginning, one where sibling rivalry could give way to mutual respect, and the scars of the past could ultimately guide them toward a future defined by understanding rather than division. Negotiating the new terms. Inside the polished boardroom, light filtered through expansive windows onto a long, gleaming table. With all present, Adrian, Bianca, and the remaining family executives, the atmosphere shifted from one of lingering discord to a determined focus on a clear, renewed vision. Adrian rose, his voice steady and resolute, as he presented a meticulously drafted proposal. "Our future requires more than just compensation," he declared, calmly outlining a detailed framework for equal partnership. His presentation highlighted new operational strategies, a balanced allocation of decision-making power, and revised profit sharing that recognized every ounce of dedication poured into the business over the years. The room absorbed every word as discussions deepened into the specifics. Contractual clauses were dissected, expectations recalibrated, and every contribution was finally acknowledged as essential for the company's revival. Turning point. After hours of intense negotiation, the shift from conflict to understanding was cemented with symbolic acts. With a mutual nod of agreement, Bianca extended her hand, and Adrian grasped it firmly, a handshake that echoed far more than a mere business formality. One by one, the revised contracts were signed. Each stroke of the pen marked not merely a legal formality, but a turning point, a moment when old wounds began to heal, and the thirst for revenge was replaced by the promise of renewal. In that charged silence following the signatures, every participant in the room felt the weight of a past set aside and the stirring optimism of a future redefined. Collaborative blueprint. The meeting's energy pivoted effortlessly into active collaboration. Together, Adrian and Bianca moved to a broad whiteboard near the window, the surface soon covered with an array of diagrams, ideas, and color-coded plans. Here, the two siblings leaned in together, sketching out a vision that blended innovation with the deep-rooted legacy of their family enterprise. Ideas flowed freely as they charted strategies for revitalizing the business, expanding into new markets, and reinvigorating the team spirit among employees. Their collaborative blueprint grew more intricate with each line drawn, embodying a promise that their new partnership was much more than just a business arrangement. It was an opportunity to reimagine the company as a living testament to fairness, integration, and mutual respect. Hands-on reconstruction. Early one crisp morning, the air was filled with the tangible promise of renewal as Adrian and Bianca rolled up their sleeves and stepped onto the unfinished site. Together, they reviewed the old blueprints spread out on a weathered table beneath a sky just beginning to clear. With a determined nod, they divided tasks. Adrian measured and outlined the next phase of construction, while Bianca coordinated the delivery of essential tools. As hammers rang out and saws buzzed in a harmonious rhythm, every swing of the tool and every drawn line on paper became a metaphor for what was being rebuilt. Not just the physical structure of the company, but the fragile, trampled bond between siblings. Their synchronized efforts transformed the site into a canvas where sacrifice, creativity, and shared labor reforged a relationship once marred by betrayal. Transformation montage. Over the ensuing weeks, the site blossomed under the weight of new energy and innovative ideas. A montage of everyday improvements unfolded. A newly painted wall that brightened the look of the office space, refreshed equipment that hummed with reliability, and impromptu meetings where employees brainstormed fresh strategies with unbridled enthusiasm. In a series of vivid snapshots, workers who had once shuffled in uncertainty now exchanged confident smiles, rallying around initiatives to streamline project management and secure vital contracts. The atmosphere shifted from one of paper-pushing bureaucracy to instinctive, hands-on ingenuity. Every improved corner and every innovative strategy implemented under this re-energized leadership was a testament to the power of unity, an endeavor where the scars of the past were gradually replaced with the solid mortar of a shared, hopeful future. Family reflection. Not far from the bustling reconstruction, Malcolm and Evelyn observed these positive changes with increasingly reflective eyes. In quiet, unguarded moments, they found themselves drawn to the transformed site, watching as the vibrant energy of collaboration spread like a warm light over the building. Even the other family members, once burdened by silent resentments, began to see that the new dynamic was more than just business acumen. It was the realization of a long-overdue healing process. In private conversations, Malcolm acknowledged in a low, regretful tone that the seeds of neglect had contributed to this rupture, while Evelyn expressed a cautious hope that witnessing the dedication and revived employee morale might mend the fractured family legacy. Their reflections marked a subtle yet sincere shift, a recognition that the future could be built not only on profit margins, but on the principles of respect, cooperation, and renewed familial bonds. The new vision unveiled. The day had arrived for a long-awaited celebration, a community open house at the newly renovated site, where every detail spoke of rebirth. The venue buzzed with energy as local dignitaries, devoted employees, and supportive community members gathered under a radiant canopy of clear skies. The building, which had once been a symbol of internal strife, now gleamed with a renewed purpose. Modern designs intertwined with elements of the company's storied past. Standing at the podium, Adrian addressed the crowd with calm authority, outlining the company's fresh strategy of equal partnership and collaborative growth. His words were steeped in gratitude, reflecting not only a triumph over betrayal, but the transformative power of turning loss into opportunity. Personal triumph. Away from the fanfare of the celebration, Adrian found a quiet moment on a secluded balcony overlooking the energized courtyard. There, as he watched employees enthusiastically interact and community members marvel at the revitalized space, he allowed himself a moment of introspection. A montage of memory flooded his mind: sleepless nights laboring over blueprints, the weight of unrecognized sacrifices, and the crushing shock of betrayal. Yet those dark chapters had forged within him a determination that no one could diminish. In that serene pause, Adrian acknowledged that sometimes losing what you once thought you needed is the catalyst for acquiring what you truly deserve: self-respect, empowerment, and the freedom to redefine your identity. His journey from despair to this moment of unshakable self-assurance resonated quietly with the promise of a reimagined future. A future reimagined. As the celebration began to mellow into a reflective twilight, a symbolic moment awaited at the edge of the site. Adrian and Bianca, now partners in both business and in mending their fractured bond, stood together as dawn crept over the horizon. The first light of day painted the sky with hues of gold and pink, a breathtaking canvas that spoke of hope and renewal. In that moment, every hardship, every harsh word of betrayal was recontextualized by the soft glow of a new beginning. The sunrise was more than a beautiful scene. It was a promise. It promised that their future would be built on the sturdy foundations of mutual respect and shared vision. With the tangible success of their new project behind them, the siblings embraced the reality that their combined strength could create a legacy far greater than the sum of its betrayals.